True crime enthusiasts, it's Rabia Chaudhry
and Ellen Marsh.
You are invited to join us on Rabia and Ellen Solve the Case, a true crime talk show.
Grab a front row seat as we, along with our special celebrity guests, dissect our favorite true crime cases every other Thursday.
And between those episodes, join us as we talk about current true crime headlines in our About Damn Crime series.
Skip the ordinary and dive into extraordinary investigations and conversations with us.
Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform, and let's unravel these captivating stories together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 352 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, what is going on with you, man?
Man, 352. We're getting there.
The numbers.
Once we hit 400, remember I said I'd sit here and do the show naked.
Okay, well, we're ending the podcast at 399 because I don't want to see that.
Push through. You just wear some blinders or something, so you can't see.
Hey, we got so much out right now. Saturday night, we dropped a brand new Patreon full episode, and it's on Christine Rausch. Troubled childhood, was adopted by extended family, and then as an adult, sought out her birth mother and ended up killing her. It's a wild story.
It's really wild.
And then we have a new True Crime All the Time out right now on Stephen Todd Jenkins. This was a man who was convicted of murdering two bankers who seized his family's farm after his parents filed for bankruptcy. It was thought that he blamed them for the breakup of the family and losing the farm and all that. But there was a real question as to whether, he was the killer or his father was the killer.
But I think you could say there's kind of a twist.
Yeah.
Depending on where your thoughts are.
Yeah, there really is. Let's go ahead and give our shout outs. For Patreon, we had Jessica Staples.
Hey, Staples.
Tony Hunt.
What's going on, Hunt?
Ray B jumped out at our highest level.
What up, B?
Art Bellin.
Hey, Bellin.
Nicole Shepard.
What's going on, Shepard?
Jason Lunsman.
Jason, how are you?
Ducky Laird.
Hey, there's Ducky Laird.
Cornelia Gustafson.
Cornelia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Johanna Berglund jumped out at our highest level.
Hey, Berglund.
Lucy.
Good old Lucy.
Taylor Hudson.
Hey, Hudson.
Mike Abbott.
Well, thank you, Abbott.
Mac McCanda.
Just MM.
And last but not least, Beth.
Hey, Beth.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Jody Eubank.
Well, thanks, Jody.
Yeah, appreciate all the support. We also had a great PayPal donation from Charlene Brewer.
Hey, Charlene.
So thank you to everyone. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am ready.
We're talking about the disappearance of Adam Emery, and this is a little bit of a different type of case for us because Adam Emery was convicted of second-degree murder for stabbing a young man in the heart because he believed the driver hit his vehicle and fled. Emery and his wife disappeared on the day he was convicted. His wife's remains were found months later. But Adam Emery is still considered a fugitive from justice. So like I said, a little different. Normally we're talking about people in glowing terms, right? These people who go missing or their murders are unsolved. A lot of them were such great people and their friends and family just raved about, how good they were and they were doing great stuff for the world. Well, here we're talking about a man convicted of second-degree murder.
Yeah, not so rosy.
Adam Charles Emery was born on November 10th, 1962, in Kent County, Rhode Island. Adam grew up in a middle-class family in the city of Cranston, Rhode Island. He graduated from Rhode Island College and worked for a plastics manufacturing company as a customer service manager. He was also in the National Guard, according to the news outlet WJAR. Adam met his wife, Elena, at a local disco.
Did you just go to the discos?
By the time I was old enough to go really anywhere, I think disco was kind of dead.
So you don't remember the disco duck or?
No. I know you were there with your bell bottoms and your platform shoes and your perm, but I did not make that scene.
I might have been 10 years old in 76, but man, I could cut up that floor.
Eleno DiRocco Emery was born in Italy on March 13th, 1961. Elena's family lived in Fornelli, a farming village near Naples. They immigrated to Rhode Island in 1968 for better job opportunities. Elena's mother worked in a soap factory, and her father was a construction worker. They eventually purchased a house in Cranston, which has a larger Italian community. As an adult, Elena did bookkeeping for a local construction company and was working on earning a college degree. In the late 1980s, Elena returned to Fornelli to visit her family. Adam did not go with her. Elena and Adam got married in 1988. Multiple sources said the young couple was deeply in love with each other and wanted to build a good life together. They lived in Warwick in an apartment inside a multi-family home owned by Elena's parents. They both lived what were described, as normal lives. They had never been in trouble with the law before.
So it sounds like things are just going good. Nothing out of the ordinary.
No. I mean, if you believe what people said, they were deeply in love. They were building, this life together. They didn't have, long rap sheets. They didn't have any rap sheets, really. On August 30th, 1990, Adam and Elena went to the Rocky Point amusement park in Warwick to eat dinner with Elena's sister and brother-in-law. They sat in Adam's Ford Thunderbird, eating clam cakes and chowder and drinking beer. It was supposed to be a celebration of the Emery's second wedding anniversary.
Clam cakes and chowder. Sounds like something you would eat.
Oh, now I love a good chowder. I've never spent time in the Northeast, but I'd love to go for a couple of reasons. Number one, the historic sites.
Sure.
But number two, the food.
You just want some lobster rolls.
I want some Maine lobster rolls. Give me some chowder. I'm all in. Just before 9 p.m., they were hit by another vehicle, which left a large dent in Adam's Thunderbird. The car sped off around a corner. And a hit and run is never good.
It's going to ruin your night.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it's worse if you hit a person and then the car, takes off. But let's not discount the fact that nobody wants to have their car smashed in and then the person not stop to exchange insurances.
I'm pretty sure if someone hit your truck and didn't stop, you would probably pursue.
Yeah, you could just take the probably out of there. So Adam started up his car and began pursuing the driver. And it wasn't just him. I mean, he was being urged on by, his passengers as well. When he rounded the corner, he spotted a 1975 Ford LTD in front of him. According to the Washington Post, Elena shouted, "That's the car." Adam followed the car out of the park and through the streets of a residential neighborhood. He later testified that he did this to get the license plate and report it to the police. And I think a lot of people could understand that thought, right? Somebody did something they shouldn't have done. Hitting your car is one thing. We all make mistakes, but hitting your car and then taking off, that's not a mistake.
No.
That's a crime.
Exactly.
So at the very least, you would want to try to figure out who this person is to be able to go to the police. And to do that, you would need to try to get the license plate, at a minimum. After about 2 miles, the Ford LTD either pulled over voluntarily or was forced to the side of the road by Adam. Okay, so we're not sure which one, but those are two very different things.
It's going to make the other driver act differently if he got forced off the road or he just voluntarily pulled over to say, "Hey, man, I didn't mean to hit your car," versus, "Why'd you run me off the road?" it's going to be some aggressive things happening.
Adam got out of the car with his knife at Elena's urging. The driver was 20-year-old Jason Bass. With him was his cousin Joshua Post and another friend they picked up on their way home. Jason was born on July 22nd, 1970, and grew up in Providence, Rhode Island. He dropped out of school at the age of 16 and worked a number of different jobs. At the time of his death, he worked as a food concession manager at Rock Point. His dream was to open his own restaurant one day. So a dream that he shares with you. I've heard you say that many times, that you want to open a restaurant called Gibby's.
It'd be Italian food too, because, I'm Italiano.
And I can just picture it. All of the menu items would be spelled as you believe that they're said.
Absolutely.
Not correctly. It's just however you think that they're said.
Chicken Parmigiano.
Similar to Adam, Jason was not known as a troublemaker. Based on his cousin's account of what happened, he most likely spent his final moments terrified and confused about what was happening. Joshua recalled that they saw the man chasing them in his car. When they stopped, he got out and approached the driver's side window. Joshua recalled, as quoted by Unsolved Mysteries, he got out of his car yelling and screaming that, "We'll kick your butt. I'm going to kill you." These were major fighting words. Unbelievably, this guy was so mad, and I've never seen anybody madder than this. So this was all according to Joshua.
So definitely some tempers are flaring or flared.
Yes. Jason put his car in reverse to try to get away. Adam held on to the driver's door as he reversed and soon stabbed Jason in the heart. He died within minutes. Joshua Post said in a 2017 interview with Eyewitness News, Adam came out of nowhere, pushed him, and that was when he stabbed him. So this went from a hit and run, a vehicle, striking a vehicle and then running off, to being chased down, road rage, and then a confrontation that ended with a young man stabbed to death in the heart. This got out of hand very quickly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, none of this had to happen, right?
No, and if you think about what Joshua said, the way that, Adam was reacting as he was getting out of his car, he was obviously very mad. He was yelling, he was screaming, and he said, "I'm going to kill you." Now, that can often be a figure of speech, but in this case, it turned out to be prophetic. And my thought is, Jason was probably scared to death. The guys in the car are scared to death. And I don't know what the people in Adam's car are thinking.
Oh, but you got a guy that's extremely upset, waving around a knife. Why would you want to hang out there? You're going to put your car in reverse and try to get out of there.
Oh, I think as soon as you see that the guy has a knife, you're going to try to get away.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what his intentions are, but obviously they're not good from the way he's acting. People in the neighborhood witnessed the chaotic scene and they tried to help. Among them was Rhode Island State Police Detective Kevin Hopkins. At first, he thought he was investigating a car accident, but he quickly realized it was a murder. Hopkins told NBC 10, "Off in the distance, I heard the distinct sound of a car crash. I drove up the street to help the people involved in the accident, and that's when I just happened to come upon the murder of Jason Bass. When I got to the scene, I saw Jason Bass's car up on top of the lawn of this particular house. I got out of my cruiser and I said, 'Has anyone been hurt?' And a woman says to me, 'He's been stabbed. He's been stabbed.'" Hopkins saw Jason on the ground, bleeding from a stab wound. Adam was sitting on the front steps of a nearby house drinking water. He had blood on his clothing. He said to Hopkins, "I did it." Adam was arrested by the Warwick police. So it wasn't like this guy took off and ran. Adam, he realized what he had done. He sat down on the front steps of a house, drank some water, and immediately told the police that he did it.
Yeah, it was me.
But what makes this case especially tragic is the fact that Jason wasn't the person who hit Adam's car that evening. Detective Hopkins told Unsolved Mysteries the Ford LTD that was driven by Jason Bass was not the vehicle that hit Adam Emery's car. They took paint chips off of Adam's car and they tested those paint chips with the paint of Jason Bass's car and proved conclusively that it was a different vehicle that struck Adam Emery's car that evening.
Chased the wrong individual. And because of that, he killed somebody that had nothing to do with the hit and run of his car. Wow.
Yeah, I think wow is right. My thought is Adam Emery realized he had done something extremely wrong right away. But my thought is when he got the news that this is not even the guy that hit his car, he must have felt even worse, if he could feel worse.
Yeah. I'm sure Adam did feel bad after he learned that Jason Bass didn't hit his car. Jason just saw somebody trying to attack him and waving around a knife and just wanted to get the heck out of there because he had no idea why Adam was confronting him.
Yeah, it was going to be tragic no matter how this went down. But like I said, it's even more tragic when you find out that Jason Bass didn't have anything to do with even hitting the car.
No. But Adam's wife seemed pretty convinced it was that car.
Well, and we said it, right? She kind of urged him on, and some of the other passengers did as well. Adam was charged with second-degree murder. He claimed he stabbed Jason in self-defense. When Jason put the car in reverse, Adam said he assumed it was an attack. According to the Washington Post, Adam said he thought Jason was going to hit his brother-in-law, who was standing in front of his car. He leaned into Jason's car to turn off the ignition. Jason took off backwards and dragged Adam 1,300 feet. Adam feared for his life and felt that he had to make Jason stop the car.
Or let go of the steering wheel or whatever you're holding on to so you're not dragged.
Yeah, but I think the point he's making is that he believes Jason's going to run into his brother-in-law. So if he just lets go, how's he going to stop the car?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Soon after the murder, the two families had a tense encounter in public. Cindy Bass, Jason's sister-in-law, went to a store to purchase a suit for Jason's burial. She told the clerk it was for a family member who was murdered and gave the basic details of what happened. That was when one of Elena's sisters, who happened to be in the store, Melinda Apollonio, came forward and said, "Why don't you tell the truth? That your son dragged my brother-in-law, that they tried to kill him." Whew, okay. What are the chances? Now, I get it. This is probably a pretty small town, but what are the chances that these two individuals are in the same store after this happens and they get into this altercation?
Yeah, man. It had to be kind of scary for other people in the store at that moment.
But I think the other thing that it does is it shows you where each camp stands.
Right.
The Jason Bass camp is, hey, Adam Emery killed Jason. The Adam camp is Adam was, fighting for his life. They were trying to kill him.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Jason dragging him, he wouldn't have had to stab him.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to Gibby and I talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customer survey who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. Adam spent 8 months in jail and was released on bail in May 1991. The Bennington Banner reported that he spent his time incarcerated studying Italian.
That's a good thing. Learn some Italian while you're in there.
I don't know what else he had to do. Adam's family reportedly called the police in an Italian town that contributes officers to Fornelli, the farming village where Elena's parents once lived. They complained they were being treated unfairly by Rhode Island prosecutors. They didn't mention that Adam was charged with murder. Instead, said he was in a fight that resulted in injuries. The police chief who spoke to the AP about this later recanted his statement.
But I don't know what this call was supposed to do for them.
I don't know what the police in a town in Italy was going to do. They weren't going to be able to influence, anyone in Rhode Island or anything like that. Before trial, Adam was offered a manslaughter plea in exchange for a 20-year sentence, but he refused to accept the deal.
You think you can win in court by claiming self-defense, but that's a big risk.
Well, it's like we always talk about, right? The plea deal versus going to trial is always a gamble because you just never know how a trial is going to play out.
Yeah.
You could get off scot-free. You could ultimately get more time than what they offered you in the plea deal. Per the Washington Post, a friend asked Adam if he would be willing to take a plea bargain. Adam responded, "I don't think I did anything wrong. My name would be ruined."
That's the problem with something like that. Yeah, you think you didn't do anything wrong, but will a jury think you did something wrong?
Because that's all that really matters. But I do think for defendants, when they believe that they didn't do anything wrong, it is harder to take a plea bargain because they're admitting wrongdoing. You are going to be a convicted felon and you are going to serve time in prison.
Yeah.
Adam went to trial in November 1993. On November 10th, his 31st birthday, he was convicted of second-degree murder for the death of Jason Bass. The judge allowed him to remain free on a $270,000 bond pending his sentencing hearing the following month. In Rhode Island, there is no mandatory sentence for second-degree murder. The judge could have given him life in prison, 20 years, which was the sentence proposed in the plea deal, or no prison time at all.
Man, you're just counting on the judge waking up in a good mood that day, because if he wakes up in a bad mood, really doesn't like you, it could go bad.
Well, that is such a huge difference, a big span between no time at all to life in prison, to anywhere in between. The Bass family had to get a police escort after the verdict was read because one of Elena's family members shouted expletives and said, "We're going to get you," according to the Washington Post.
So definitely some angry family members at the trial.
Well, and I don't know that that's all that unusual. A trial that involves, someone's life being taken, there's going to be animosity. How could there not be? But here, I think it's interesting that it's Adam's side of the family, his wife's side of the family that are the ones that are yelling at the Bass family. We're going to get you. According to the Providence Journal, when Elena heard the verdict, she whispered, "It's my fault," followed by, "I'm going to kill someone. There's hell to be paid."
It's kind of a strange thing to say, though, right? It's my fault. But then after that, you're saying, I'm going to kill somebody. But if it's your fault.
Well, I think she's saying, and I'm only guessing here, but it's my fault because she was the one that really urged Adam, I think, to take his knife.
Yeah.
When he got out of the car. But I agree with you. It's kind of a strange statement to make. I'm also getting the sense that, Elena and her family are, a little hot-headed.
They're not happy about this verdict, and they're not shy about voicing it.
Well, that's the other thing. A lot of people may have those thoughts, but to voice them, to shout them, I'm starting to worry that the Black Hand is going to be called in.
You never know.
Elena briefly spoke to Adam after the verdict was read. Adam and Elena left the courthouse around 3 p.m. About 30 minutes later, they went to Kelly's Sporting Goods in Cranston. Manager Joe Smith told the police that Elena was smiling and talkative. They purchased sweatsuits, athletic socks, and 80 pounds of strap-on exercise weights. Adam was reportedly disturbed by the $200 total.
It's a strange thing to buy after your husband was just found guilty.
Well, I found it strange that he's disturbed about spending $200 when he was just found guilty of second-degree murder. After this, the Emerys were seen eating at Burger King, because I guess you got to go somewhere after a murder conviction.
Well, that's because you can have it your way there.
At 4:45, they were seen at the Claiborne-Pell Bridge, also known as the Newport Bridge, above Narragansett Bay. This bridge connects Newport to Jamestown. Around 4:50, witnesses saw the Emerys on the walkway of the bridge. By 5:15, they were gone. At some point in the late afternoon or early evening, they returned to the bridge and abandoned their car for unknown reasons. Around 7:15 p.m. on November 10th, a bridge supervisor and a state trooper found an abandoned green Toyota Camry on the bridge. The car was blocking one of the lanes. The car was empty, with the engine still running and the headlights on. Clothing was folded up on the back seat. Cash, cut up credit cards, and a driver's license were found in the front. Elena's purse and heels were also found in the car, along with the receipt from the sporting goods store. Bridge Supervisor Robert Moorhead told Unsolved Mysteries that when they looked at the vehicle, they realized the car belonged to the Emerys. The majority of people in town knew who they were because of the trial. I'm assuming this trial was a big deal.
Yeah, I think it was the big media circus at that time for that town.
But I kind of want to take stock of this scene, right? You have the car abandoned, it's running, the headlights are on. It's really what's inside the car that really kind of piqued my interest. There's cash. The credit cards are cut up. They left their driver's license. Elena left her purse, and they also left this receipt from the sporting goods store. My first thought was that it seemed staged. It seemed arranged.
Yeah, because the receipt's going to show these weights.
What they bought.
Right.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Initially, investigators assumed Adam and Elena chose to end their lives by jumping off the bridge together. The bridge is 215 feet above the water, meaning the risk of a fatality is high. However, the police were curious as to how Elena could scale the high railing with the exercise weights without any witnesses seeing her. She apparently had trouble just carrying one of the bags out of the store.
So it would make you wonder, right? If she could barely carry one of the bags, how's she going to scale this railing?
With all this weight on her? The police soon began to suspect the Emerys were alive, and the car was left behind to throw them off their trail. They wanted to flee town to avoid a lengthy prison sentence for Adam. Still, authorities launched the most extensive search in state history to look for their bodies in the bay. Investigators used sonar, maps of the bay floor, and a search dog, but found nothing.
I'm just thinking they made the decision, if you believe that they parked the car there, got out, scaled the rail, and jumped after he was found guilty that day, but he didn't know what his sentence was going to be yet.
No, and as we said, it could have been nothing at all. Now, I don't think that's was going to happen. You would think at the very least he was going to get the 20.
Just seems a little premature.
Well, but once he gets sentenced, he's gone. He's taken straight into custody, right? He's not going to have the chance. Right now, he's free on bond, so he's out.
But did you have that conversation before you went to trial? Say, hey, if it doesn't go the way we want it to, when they release me on bond until I get sentenced, let's stop off at the sporting good store and let's get some body weights and jump off that bridge together. You with me on that?
Well, they could have had it in the car afterwards. But to me, Gibbs, I can see why the police kind of quickly switched gears into thinking that maybe this was a setup. Because, like I said, I kind of thought that too initially, leaving the receipt out where it can be seen.
Right.
Kind of really, to me, tips it off.
And if you're going to end your life, why would you take the time to cut your credit cards?
Yeah, what's it going to matter?
Do you care if someone takes your credit cards and racks up some bills?
Yeah, I thought that was strange as well. On November 13th, family and friends received 6 individually addressed suicide notes from Adam and Elena. The letters were mailed before they were last seen alive. The police believed it was part of their ruse, but the families did not. These letters supported their belief that Adam and Elena chose to end their lives after he was convicted. The underwater search was called off on November 17th. The police eventually issued a warrant for Adam's arrest for violating bail. On November 19th, Attorney General Jeff Pine spoke with WJAR-TV about the case, saying that the evidence suggested the two were still alive. He told the outlet it was inconsistent that they would eat a meal and then end their lives. He said, I've seen a lot more instances where people have taken off to avoid prison rather than harm themselves. That's why the state police are pursuing a land investigation as well as the ocean investigation that they had conducted. Now, I don't really understand the not eating a meal before you chose to end your life.
Yeah.
I didn't get that part.
No, I could see somebody wanting to eat a meal before they...
Let's have a last meal.
Yeah.
Sit and talk.
Yeah, have a last meal with your spouse and have that private moment before you decide to end your life. That could happen.
Pine called the letters inconclusive and said Adam and Elena did not use the word suicide. Instead, they apologized to individual family members about past events. He said they cut both ways. Those letters, I don't think they're necessarily indicative of having committed suicide, nor are they indicative of having taken off on their own. So basically, he's saying they don't prove anything one way or the other.
Just kind of broad statements.
Yeah, I mean, and I could understand that. I don't think anything we've talked about proves anything one way or another or is conclusive. Now, it can lead you to believe one avenue is more plausible than the other, and that's kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah, you can be influenced based on how you interpret those letters and the events.
Well, and you can understand why the family would believe that they did end their lives. Or maybe the families already knew their plans, but didn't want to disclose any information.
Kind of participate in helping the plan?
Or just not revealing it.
Yeah.
If that's the way it went. In December, the families hired a diving team to search the bay for 5 days. They found no relevant evidence in the bay. On December 13th, 1993, prosecutors began court proceedings to seize Elena's family's home, which was used to secure Adam's bail. Detective Captain Frank Muserall told the AP that they hoped Adam and Elena would realize the harm they were doing to their families and would turn themselves in.
I bet the family wasn't real pleased with the police at that time, trying to take their home.
Well, I'm sure they weren't, but what did they think was going to happen? I mean, they used the home to secure the bail. So either they had no knowledge of what Adam and Elena were going to do Or they did, but they thought that the police would believe they were dead and therefore wouldn't come after the home. It's got to be one or the other, right? Because you ain't putting up your family home with the understanding that you're going to lose it. In late 1993, Detective Kevin Hopkins from the state police recalled a video of Adam and Elena speaking briefly after the conviction. Their conversation was not audible. So he showed the video to a person who was hearing impaired and could read lips. Based on this person's interpretation of the video, Elena said, "We will do what we originally said. You promised me. We should have done this before." So that's a very interesting set of statements.
Yeah, but what does it mean?
Well, you can take it a number of different ways. You can take it as they planned all of this out, what they put into motion, which was either taking their lives or making it look like they did, but going on the run. And her saying, "We should have done this before the trial," kind of something you alluded to.
Right.
So if this person is correct, it indicates that, they already had a plan in place. And like I said, the plan could have been a suicide pact or a plan to flee the state. But Adam and Elena's families were insistent that they died of suicide and their bodies were in the bag. And again, my thought keeps going back to either the families had no knowledge of any plan that Adam and Elena concocted beforehand, or some of the family knew about the plan, but thought that the police would view it a certain way, as in they had taken their own lives. Elena's sister, Maria Williams, told Newsweek, when the verdict came, that killed them. Adam could not live with being known as a murderer.
Well, and he made statements that one of the reason he didn't want to take the plea deal because he couldn't have his name be muddied like that.
It was reported that Elena blamed herself because she encouraged Adam to pursue Jason that night. Elena's sister, Melinda, told the AP that Adam was confident he'd be acquitted. Melinda said, "He didn't die from the jump from the bridge. He died when he heard the verdict, and Elena died with him. The jump was just carrying out something that had already happened."
I mean, look, if you really felt that this was devastating to your family name, your wife, and that there was no way you were going to be able to survive in prison, no matter what the length of time that sentence would be, maybe that was your plan, to end your life so you didn't have to go through all that.
But does it seem strange to you that Elena would be part of that plan? She's not facing prison, so it would have to be her not wanting to be alive without him.
Yeah, maybe they just loved each other so much, kind of like the Romeo and Juliet, right? If I can't be with you, I don't want to be.
Is that how Shakespeare wrote it?
To be or not to be? That's the question.
I'm not sure that's how he wrote it at all. A federal arrest warrant was issued against Elena in February 1994, charging her with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. About 6 months later, on August 30th, 1994, a human skull was found in the bay near the Claiborne Pell Bridge. A small fishing boat caught the skull in its nets. It was transported to the state medical examiner for testing, and authorities sought dental records for identification.
Such a bizarre thing to catch in your nets.
Yeah, I'm sure fishermen catch all kinds of strange things, license plates, things thrown over the bridge. I don't know how many times they catch a human skull. On September 9th, state medical examiner Dr. Elizabeth Loposada confirmed the skull was the remains of Elena Emery. She used dental records and x-rays and described it as an absolute 100% identification. But she couldn't determine a cause of death because there were no injuries to the skull. And it's pretty tough, right? When all you have is a skull, if there's not a bullet hole in the skull, you don't have much to work with.
No, you do not.
Elena's family told the press that this discovery confirmed their long-held beliefs. And I can absolutely understand why they would say that, why they would think that. If they truly believed them from the very beginning that both Adam and Elena jumped from the bridge, the discovery of the skull would kind of be validation.
Oh, yeah. This is what we've been telling you.
And their thought would have to be, well, they just haven't found anything to conclusively prove that Adam jumped as well, but they're going to, right? It's just a matter of time. They're going to find something. However, Detective Kevin Hopkins announced that Adam was still considered a fugitive from justice. Later that month, a leg and hip bone were also found in the bay. A fisherman tossed the leg bone overboard, but turned the hip bone over to the state police. Divers only had to search the water for about 10 minutes to find the leg bone.
It's kind of strange to keep the one bone but not the other one.
Yeah, I thought so as well. According to Unsolved Mysteries, one of the bones had a fragment of a sock stuck to it that matched those purchased by the Emerys at the sporting goods store on the day of their disappearance. The police didn't make a comment on whether they could be the remains of Adam or Elena.
But now I'm sure the families at that time was thinking, okay, this might be the proof we need to show that Adam killed himself as well.
Now, I'm no expert, but my thought was that you would think experts would at least be able to tell whether a leg or hip bone maybe not specifically came from one of the Emerys, but was either male or female, more likely to come from Adam or Elena, based on length and size and all of that.
Yeah, I think you should be able to do that.
In November 1994, the AP reported that 2 leg bones pulled from the bay in July were not the remains of Adam Emery. A specialist compared the bones to a 1991 X-ray of Adam's and determined that there was no match. However, the possibility that the bones were Elena's were not ruled out. And again, to me, that seems strange, but maybe I'm missing something, not having the right medical knowledge. And maybe they didn't have the complete bones either. We don't know.
To make that determination.
Yes. Maybe it was part of the bone. Unsolved Mysteries reported that the DNA sample from the bone was compared to Elena's mother and sister and declared a match.
So this just confirms what we already knew about Elena, that she was dead, but it doesn't shed any light on Adam.
In 2010, Adam Emery was added to the FBI's most wanted list.
That's a list you don't want to be on.
No, I know that's the reason why you refuse to go into the post office. You always make me go in there.
I don't want to see my picture.
The Rhode Island State Police worked with the FBI in 2016 to create an age-enhanced image of Adam. On January 2nd, 2017, the FBI posted on Twitter to remind the public that he is still on their most wanted list. There was no new break in the case, but the FBI emphasized that tips are welcome. Several sources have reported that Adam may have traveled to Florida or Italy, where he has family. Jason Bass's family told Fox 25 that there was a sighting of Adam on a train in Paris. Adam is considered armed and dangerous. And I want to go back to, the time that he spent in jail. We mentioned that he was studying Italian. Was that somehow part of his master plan?
Well, we know Adam's family called that Italian town. And like you said, he practiced and learned Italian while he was in prison. And maybe they had connections in that town or village in Italy to help him hide.
Or Elena's family, because they had once lived there. Now, the finding of Elena and the determination that she was deceased, does that make it less plausible that her family would try to help Adam out in any way?
I think so.
To me, it does.
Yeah.
But who knows, man? This is such a confusing case. It really is. I do think that the finding of her body, to me, makes it less likely that, at least on the part of Elena's family, there was some grander plan, some knowledge that they had.
Right.
Again, let's not forget they put up their house for his bail. So why would they do that if they knew he was going to skip? Now, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but it could have been that Elena's death was accidental as part of them trying to, go through with this ruse.
Possible.
But I don't know how plausible.
Exactly.
But if Elena died and Adam didn't, then what does that mean? And that's something we'll have to consider. Raymond Bass, Jason's brother, told Fox 25 in 2017 he believes Adam is still alive, saying, "I just have a hunch. I feel in my gut. They had someone waiting for them on the other side of the bridge. They left it there to make it look like they jumped, to make it look like suicide." And that's what I think a lot of people believe, maybe still believe. But one popular theory is that Adam did jump off the bridge, but he survived the fall and made it to shore. A second theory is that he pushed Elena off the bridge and then escaped alone.
Or maybe she jumped seconds before him and he said, I don't want to do this.
Got cold feet.
Yeah.
And said he couldn't do it. And then obviously there's, the other theory, which friends and family of the Emerys believe, and that's that they jumped together. And it's just that Adam's remains have not yet been found.
That's very possible.
Well, I'm going to throw it out there. I think they're all possible.
Yeah.
Angelina DeRocco, Elena's mother, told the AP in 1994 that she was certain they were in the bay, saying they wanted to die together. They got married so they could stay together. My daughter is under the water. You can bet your life on it. April Shaw, a Coast Guard petty officer, told Newport this week in 2020 that most people who jump in the Narragansett Bay are found immediately or within a few days. She said it was improbable for a body to disappear without a trace.
So that just adds another twist, right?
Right, but improbable, not impossible.
Yeah. Just enough to say, we can't say for sure.
She told the outlet, "This is the first time I'm hearing about something like that happening in this area. I would say this is very out of the ordinary, but hitting the water from that height and that speed, you are probably approaching terminal velocity at impact. They're hitting concrete, basically. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. You are probably going to have broken legs, arms, or cracked ribs. It would be very difficult for someone to then swim to shore."
So then it takes you back to, could someone second guess themselves and not jump when their spouse jumps? Or like you mentioned, could it be the fact that, it's going to look good? If I push her, they find that body. Meanwhile, I go this direction.
And maybe Adam thought that it would be easier for him by himself to get away. Or to your point, if they find her body, they'll just assume I'm dead too. You could go a bunch of different ways. Sure and can. I think it's part of why this is such an interesting case. In 2020, the FBI Boston Division told NBC 10 they still receive tips about Adam Emery on a regular basis. Spokeswoman Kristen Satera wrote in an email, "No matter how long it takes, the FBI will continue to work with our law enforcement partners and following every lead until we can locate fugitive Adam Emery or his remains and provide his victim's family with some much needed closure." As of February 2024, Adam Emery's remains have not been found and he's not been arrested. That's why this thing is still unsolved. Adam was 31 when he went missing. He'd be 61 years old today. At the time of his disappearance, Adam was described as 6'1" with black hair, blue eyes, and weighing 195 pounds.
Do you think if you were Adam and you chose to either you got scared when Elena jumped or you pushed her and then went on the run, always looking behind you, wondering if they are going to find me for the last 30 years. Is that the life that you really wanted? Or would you have been better off just taking your sentence? And maybe it was going to be 20, maybe it was going to be 30 years with the chance of parole. She still be alive, you be getting out about now instead of being on the run.
No, I think most people would say they would have rather not served any time.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would answer that because I would never put myself in that position.
Sure.
But you said something that I think comes up a lot, which is, kind of what is it like to live your life on the run? Always looking over your shoulder, thinking that, that next knock on the door is going to be the police. Now, does that worry kind of go down as the years go by? It's been 30 years. At a certain point, do you stop kind of worrying so much? I'm not saying that, you want your picture in the local newspaper. I'm just saying, do you stop thinking about it every second of every day?
I think you probably do. I think your confidence builds.
Be a little
year
natural.
after year. Yeah. You just get stronger. But then, I remember we did that case a few years ago about the elderly couple sitting on their front porch. Here comes the police down their driveway. Mm-hmm. They finally got arrested for something they both did.
Way.
Yeah. It finally caught up to them. So it can happen. But I think you're right. I think you get a little more confident and not worry as much.
But if Adam is alive, then that means, he's been free for 30 years.
Yeah.
So deep down, if you were able to ask him, would you rather have spent the last 30 years in prison or the last 30 years doing whatever the hell you've been doing? I think most people, if they were being completely honest, would choose the second one.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how that fits in with the death of his wife.
Right.
Did he kill her? Did they both jump and they're both dead? Did he survive the fall, which seems to be pretty unlikely based on the hitting of the concrete?
Yeah, and I think if he did survive the fall, because of the amount of damage it would have done to him, they would have found him in the hospital somewhere.
Yeah, he wasn't just going to walk away from that.
Right. And he could have jumped, and whatever reason, 30 years later, no one's found any part of his body.
Yeah, there are a number of possibilities. And he could be listening to this podcast right now, sitting in a small village in Italy.
Yeah.
Eating Italian delicacies. I have no idea.
It could be.
But isn't that what makes cases like this so interesting, so mysterious?
Yeah, I think if they would have never found Elena's skull, the thought process on this one would be they're on the run.
Both of them together.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That fact that they found her and we know that she's deceased really kind of opens up a lot of different possibilities, but they all involve only Adam.
Yeah.
Because we know Elena died.
And how tragic for everybody, right? I mean, for the victim's family, not being able to see Adam serve the time for what he did
To Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you got to feel for Elena's family.
Yeah. If they had no knowledge of anything and lost their house because they put their house up for his bail.
Yeah. And then their daughter.
And then they found out they lost their daughter. It's just, and that's the thing with some of these cases, most of these cases, nobody comes out unscathed.
Right.
Everybody's hurt in some form or fashion. But if you have any information about Adam Emery, you can contact the Rhode Island State Police at 401-444-1000. This information is listed on Adam Emery's page on the NamUs website. So that's it for our episode on the disappearance of Adam Emery. And I think we've gone through the scenarios. I don't even know if I can really place them correctly on the plausibility meter. I don't think I have enough information.
No. And I think that's what makes this case so intriguing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people point to the fact that, well, they haven't found any of his bones. But what does that mean? They haven't found all of her bones, as far as I know.
Right.
Should they have found some of his? Okay, some people have said yes, they should have, but I don't know if that's 100% true. Nothing's 100%.
No,
right?
I think you can, say, look, water's mysterious.
Yeah, and you can make the case for a number of different scenarios. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Let's hear them.
What's going on, fellas? This is Cody. Just want to say, love the show. I am a traveling diesel mechanic for a local company out of Erlanger, Kentucky, and I listen to quite a bit in a day, as you can imagine. Probably my third or fourth go around listening to solved and unsolved. And just want to say, Gibby, you're my man. Keep it up. Team Gibby all the way. And Mike, I don't understand how you can support the old Ohio State Buckeyes, but yet you can love the Wildcats, even though they're pretty horrible down here in northern Kentucky. So anyway, just figured I'd show you guys some love, and appreciate all you guys do. See you.
Yeah, that's a mystery. And my Wildcats, man, they are mysterious as well. They're so up and down.
Yeah.
They beat teams that they probably shouldn't beat, and then they lose to teams they probably shouldn't lose to. But that's sports, man. That's just how sports
You
works.
might want to redo your studio, man. Pull that UK stuff off the walls.
Never. Never. But the way it happened was just because, part of my family is from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Part from Ohio. I even root for some Tennessee teams because I have, family from Tennessee. So
that's how you are.
That's how I am.
Yeah. But thanks for the voicemail.
Hey, Mike. Hey, Gibby. Anyways, I was just listening to the pass incident, the Russian one. Anyways, from what I was led to believe, one of the theories was that they had a makeshift stove to keep their tent warm. And it wasn't very good, and it was just kind of, put together with scraps of metal and whatnot. And from what I understood was, from one of the main theories that they had lit a fire into it, and it had filled the tent with smoke, and nobody could see to get out the zipper, and they were suffering from smoke inhalation, and so they decided to cut the tent open to escape the fumes. Anyways, I don't know. It's a super, super, mysterious case. I've listened to it multiple times. Love the episode you guys did, man. You guys did a great job on this one. You guys made me think of some other theories that I'd never even really thought of. Anyways, love what you guys do. Keep your own time ticking, and Team Fergie all the way. So, see you later.
Hey, the problem I have with that theory is if that's the case, why would you run so far away from that tent? You're packed on snow. Why would you run as far as they did?
Well, and the other thing that I was thinking is, wouldn't you realize that the tent is filling with smoke very quickly?
Yeah, I would think you would.
And have time to get out before the whole thing was filled with smoke.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think you can discount any theories, and you can't really prove any theories. I had some people write in that they believed it was a meteor because of the lights and the heat and some of that. I mean, he's right. It is such a mysterious case. It really is.
Where he was wrong was that whole Team Fergie
is that where
theory thing.
Is that where he lost you?
Yeah,
on that one.
Yeah, I don't understand that. It does not compute.
Yeah, you don't hear it very often, but no, we appreciate the voicemail.
We do.
That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Pluto TV is TV the way it should be, free. With over 300 channels, thousands of movies and TV shows costing zeros of dollars. So if you want to watch shows like Ghost, The Walking Dead, CSI, Star Trek, or The Price is Right, well, The Price is Right. It's free. Hit movies like Braveheart, Sonic the Hedgehog, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy, or Mean Girls won't cost you a thing, because everything is free. All you have to do is download the app, which, by the way, is also free. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.